What is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and today we're going to talk about how to gain a following, maybe a little more specifically on YouTube. But you create comics. This is definitely for artists and comic creators, especially. Um, you know, how the heck do you get people to notice what you're even doing? And YouTube's a great way to do it, but I think there's some other things too. So we'll get into all that. And today, to talk about that, I brought on Clint Stoker of also known in the YouTube world as SweetCast, and also the creator of Fatal and Downcast and other things. Clint, I know I just kind of introduced you, but let people know where they can find you and what you're all about.
Yeah, so I'm most active on YouTube for my channel's called SweetCast. I'm also relatively active on Twitter, and I am at Cast Sweet, so it's a little backward there. Or you can just search Clint Stoker, and you'll probably find me. I'm always associated with peppermint candies. That was sort of around from the beginning, and now it's just there to stay. So you see peppermint candies, that's me.
Awesome. Awesome. And like as usual, all the links are already down below in the description, if you want to check out any of his stuff. And I guess I want to talk about a bunch of things, but first of all, since you mentioned it, what is the idea behind the whole sweet cast thing with the peppermint thing? Like it actually sticks out. It's interesting because it does stick out, but it's like it's not what you would expect from like a comic publisher
No.
creator.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it was a happy accident is really what it came down to. Um, Initially, I started a YouTube channel about 2 years ago. I think this is about my anniversary. Yeah, and to me, I just kind of wanted to start making some videos and talk about whatever was on my mind, and I didn't want any of my immediate or extended family to know I had opinions, basically. So I just was like, oh, I'll slap something together that's super generic. So SweetCast was the channel name, and I did not really expect it to grow, and it did grow. So from there, it was kind of like, well, I can't change my logo. I thought about changing branding a couple times, but it's so a part of my presence online that I decided just to really lean into it and own it. And so now I have I run my own small little publisher, and it's Sweet Comics, and so I've incorporated the same candy into it, and I'm going to be even incorporating it a little bit more. So the nice thing is people remember me, and I'll have people that say when it's Christmas time, they'll post pictures of Christmas decorations where they'll see little peppermint candies, and they're like, you're everywhere. I can't stop thinking about you, because it's just something that it's everywhere, especially Christmas time. So I think it ended up being a good thing marketing wise, branding wise. But I wish I could say I was smart enough that I anticipated that. It was just a really off the cuff decision, and ended up being, I think, a positive thing.
Oh, that's really interesting. And it's funny because you know I kind of come from like 90s hip hop background, and I made that kind of music as well, and was just very much into all of that. And there's all kinds of different like rap names and stuff, and some of them are really kind of dumb, like to be honest. But it's funny, and I'm not saying Sweetcast is dumb. They'll
No,
probably be like, "Oh, Sweetcast is such a dumb name," but that's not what I'm trying to say. Like there's so many different kind of names, and like it's funny because like you don't like once you kind of associate the name with whatever it is that you like, you don't really ever think about the name again. You just like,
yep.
and it's funny because when you first kind of came on the scene, started doing videos, I think you said about 2 years ago. And I remember right when you like your first few videos, and I was like, I really like what this guy's saying. Like, this is really cool, interesting stuff. And the name, I was like, interesting. And then that was who you were. And I always recognized you when you came in my feed. So I was like, okay, cool. So it works. um,
Yeah, for whatever reason, it works. And the theme music is another thing too. But again, same thing. It's just this like upbeat kind of 8-bit soundtrack, and what does it have to do with comics? I still don't know, but it's just me now. So
yeah. Well, I mean, in some ways too, it's like, I mean, I actually say it all the time. Like anytime something happens that's cool, I'm like, sweet. Like
yeah.
if you come from a certain era, that's just common terminology anyways. So but before we get into like the main topic, I do want to just at least talk a little bit about Fatal, your latest Indiegogo. You've had two Indiegogos so far. Both of them have been successful, and Fatal is your third one, and it's going pretty well, right? I mean, I haven't seen the 40K number just yet until now, and I'm like, whoa, he finally got over that mark. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been going really well. It's kind of been a progression, and obviously Fatal is a different title than Downcast, and different artist, and there's a lot of things about it that are different, so it's hard to compare apples and oranges. But obviously Charlie Snogans is just a phenomenal artist. He's on another level, and so it didn't surprise me that it would do as well as it is, but it's still just, I don't know, high stakes because it should really do well. So I don't know, it's a totally different sort of approach. So, but it's doing really well. So I couldn't be more happy. We'll see how we land.
Yeah, yeah. And it's such a fun like concept. Like I can't imagine anything but just fun and awesomeness from the idea of like a intergalactic exterminator of crazy, what is it, like aliens or vermin of the
Yeah,
space or whatever. I don't know. It's
yeah.
pretty
It's like, and I thought of, in comics especially, the biggest cliche is you got to save the planet. The whole planet is in peril. You got to save it. And so in this case, that's a Tuesday for Flynn, the main character. It's his job is to save a planet, and he gets paid for it, and it's sort of a lowly job. And so it kind of flips it on its head. But it's still so crucial that he's able to do it. So I thought it was fun. And there's sort of, we get some red tape involved, and he's got a lot of sort of regulations that are on him is this considered an invasive species? Is this intelligent life? Can you just commit genocide, or what are the sort of the rules around it? And so, I think it's been really fun, especially with the characters, because it's just a total mix of a different mix of characters than I've been used to. So it's been a ton of fun to write.
Yeah, that sounds good, and the art is just absolutely amazing. Like I'm so glad. I don't know, like it definitely attracts the eye, and I don't know, I dig it. I immediately was like, yeah, I gotta check that out. We actually already have one question about it, which you kind of already basically answered, but the character in the thumbnail looks so awesome. Did you make it yourself, or did it already exist?
So it is original character. I'm not the artist, so I didn't make it, but Charlie Snogans did. And so he came up to me, and he had that character designed,
Oh wow.
with a few little tweaks. And then he had some other characters, and he said, I want to do this story. Here's just some character designs. And he had some action sequence drawn out. But that was it. And so we put our heads together, and it was going to be a sci-fi story. And so we really, I don't know, it's been a really nice collaboration, and sort of fleshed it out. It was my idea to bring in the fact that he's an exterminator, and travels from planet to planet. He's a very salt of the earth kind of guy. And so I kind of just brought those things to his character designs. And then, of course, a lot of it comes out when you're writing interactions and conflicts between characters. But yeah, it's original characters, original story. Probably different from a lot of the stuff that you're seeing, or that you have seen over the years. It's pretty fresh.
Yeah, it's funny, just the story of it though. I didn't know that about this project, but like, the classic question these days is, hey, I'm a writer, how do I find an artist? And this was a situation where it's, hey, I'm an artist, how do I find a writer? Like that kind of worked out interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, I'm very very fortunate to be working with Charlie. But and it came down to he watched my YouTube videos, and so he'd seen that I had done Downcast. He backed both of them, but he backed the first one and read it. He loved it, and so it was kind of like unknowingly I was trying out for this position. And so I always wonder like what other opportunities are out there, sort of. Yet to be realized because of putting myself out there and making books. I think once you have successes and things under your belt, you start building this portfolio of work, and it helps. So it's a lot easier now for me than it used to be. It used to be very difficult to find artists,
Mm.
but things have come a long way, and it's much easier.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's like ten points in there right there that like I can highlight that go with the topic. And I just want to mention before we do get into the topic, so he did mention Downcast, which that link is also down in the description, and it's still on demand, and you can get both copies still. I don't know if you have how much more you have left of the first or copies, but it's still technically available. I grabbed a couple myself last night, so
Yeah. I need to go through my inventory and count them up. We're getting low on boxes. I think I've got like 2 boxes of each cover. One, I only have one, like half a box of a particular cover. So I need to go through and do some inventory, but there's still stock left. I need to buy more mailers though. I know that I only have like 4 left. So that's something. But yeah, you can still pick it up. And then it got picked up by Alterna Comics, so it will be getting published through Alterna, and it'll be a 4-issue miniseries. So if you like that, yeah, I love Alterna.
huge fan of Alterna. I get everything from them, so I'm gonna be getting double issues. But I couldn't wait because, I watch your videos and I'm like, it's been, I actually, I'm not consistent like with videos. I end up like binging on some of my favorite people like at different times. So I didn't even know about the Downcast stuff because I had just been out of it for so long with a couple things. And anyways, when I found out, I was like, well, I'm gonna get it anyways through Alterna, but I can't wait. Like I want to see what you've produced from like the beginning, so I can I'm curious to learn about how you write and stuff. I like seeing all these creators and how they write. I'm learning myself. So, anyways, let's get into the topic. We could talk about comics all day.
Yeah.
So, you know, something that's interesting. The reason why I'm even doing, first of all, I wanted to do a video with you anyways, but it kind of worked perfectly because I also had some questions from different people about, how the heck do you get a following on YouTube? And, they ask me because I've done that, I'm still doing that. It's still got a long road. I mean, compared to some people, I'm doing good, but compared to other people, I just scratching the surface,
Yeah.
so it's like, you know, people are asking though, how the heck do you do it, and I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to get into that in a video because it's hard to like, there's so much to it, and sometimes there's even more to it than you even realize. Like even for me, I haven't been up on all the latest with YouTube and stuff, but I know the basics, and I know a lot more than the basics too, but things keep changing and I haven't like
Yeah.
super studied it lately. But that being said, I've been on YouTube since almost the first year that it was out, and I've been doing videos and stuff, but it was always kind of sporadic here and there. I didn't even know what the focus of my channel was until like a few years ago. Finally I found a focus and I did a certain things and I started to finally truly gain a little bit of a following. But one thing that's interesting is, right out the gate, I noticed from you, I mean, you've been doing it for about 2 years and you kind of hit it out the park, kind of grew pretty fast. I mean, you're still growing. We're all still growing, but like you did pretty darn well, to the fact where, like you said, you connected with another artist who's amazing through doing that, and created a bunch of relationships. And not to mention, you also have now 3 successful Indiegogos. And if it wasn't for YouTube, would that be the case? I don't know. Maybe, you know.
I don't think so. YouTube has been instrumental to my success so far, and I think it's going to be instrumental going forward as well, at least for the foreseeable future. So for me, I kind of think about it in phases, and I for sure have made mistakes along the way too. And I still, like you're saying, I don't know how many subscribers do you have now?
I'm getting close to 10K.
10K. Okay. So you're farther along subscriber wise than I am. But to me, it's like I look at it, and I've got 5,000 subscribers now, a little over 5,000. And I still, like, I'll see those channels out there that are 10,000 or 50,000 or 100,000. It's like I want to get there, but it's still a learning process to get there. So keep, take what I say with a grain of salt. But starting out, it's very difficult, because the key, I think, to YouTube is trial and error. So the more videos that you're putting out, each one of those is a chance for you to learn if it's working, or if you're finding your audience, or what you need to change. So I would tell anybody that's thinking about doing it to just commit to doing a video every single day for a month. And if you can do that for a month, you figure out, I would do it every evening before I'd go to bed. Find a way to produce a video that you can put out, and so that you can do it daily. If you can do that, then you'll start to learn how the algorithm works. You'll start to figure out, you ask yourself questions like, why did this video do so well, and why did this one not do so well? And at first it'll be like, oh, I got 30 views on this video. This is amazing. I remember getting excited about a video that got 50 views. It was a big deal.
That is a lot, though, like, especially when you're first starting. And even I still feel like that's kind of a lot, even though I tend to get more, but it's still, I mean, 30 people, like, this is what I always tell people, like, sorry to interrupt, but like,
Okay.
Imagine you're at a comic shop, and you're doing a signing or something at a comic shop, and you have 30 people in front of you. That would seem like a lot. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's a healthy way to view it, I think, because like often you can get caught up in, my video, I should be getting 10,000 views per video, because that's what these big YouTubers are doing, or at least tens of thousands. But I don't really think of it that way. I think of it just like you say, that if there are 300 people, I think even my worst videos I'll put out, and they'll get around 300 views. And so I think if there's 300 people out there that are pretty, excited about my content, they're watching it, that's a great base. That's a great place to be starting. If that's 50 people, that's great. And you sort of just build from that. And so you want to do, if you put out a video that does well for what you're used to, then try to dissect what it is about that video, or the content, the thumbnail, all of those things. Start sort of delving into the world of YouTube. And that might not be what your interest is. You might, like me, I just want to write comics. But in order to write comics, I got to have the YouTube channel. And I still need it. It's huge. So you just make more content like that. You kind of see the needle moving. You see growth happening. That's encouraging, and you should celebrate every little bit of growth you have. At the beginning, you're gonna have to get scrappy. Some of that might be going into other streams, in the comment sections, and just being seen. Make comments. Same with other regular videos. Make comments on those videos. Be seen. That's really helpful, and it's just a scrappy way to kind of to get out there. And then as you start getting your feet underneath you, you'll figure out how to make the algorithm work for you, and that changes everything. That makes it a lot easier to grow. Then the next phase, I feel like I haven't got to yet. It's out there somewhere, but I'd like to hit that phase. So
yeah, Yeah. So I'm curious. So you say there's a couple things I want to ask, but you say, you kind of figure out how to make the algorithm work for you. Can you break that down a little bit, like what that kind of means?
Sure. So rather than making content that people might be interested in, you're going to find that there's content. There are already crowds of people out there, and they're already interested in content, a specific kind of content. So what you want to do is just serve them what they're looking for. And so that's how
Mhm.
the algorithm will help. So if you figure out that people are really interested in Bruce Lee, not just Bruce Lee, but the specific angle on Bruce Lee, you're gonna make those videos and sort of it's kind of like you're feeling around in the dark, but you're gonna kind of make this angle on Bruce Lee, and then what about his relationships or something? What about, and I don't really know that much about Bruce Lee, but you're gonna kind of build out from there, from where you have found that people have some interest, and then as you do that, you'll sort of build out the boundaries and kind of find your niche. So for me, it was it's the intersection of comics and politics,
Mhm.
which seems strange. And when I explain it to people, they're like, "What is it? Is there a market for that?" There is, and so for me that works. And so I try to be informative. I wish I was more funny and entertaining. That's not really my strong suit, but I think that's a good testament to how well this works. If you consider yourself like a regular person like I do, I'm just a regular dude. I try to be informative. I try to hit on trending topics, things that are in the news recently, because people are already interested in it. So I'm going to meet them where they're at and try to provide value to them with an informative video. I've got opinions there. Um,
Mhm.
from there, the other portion of this, especially if you want to do crowdfunding and comics, is you might get 300 people watching a video, and maybe half of those people never watch another one of your videos. So you want to sort of capture them somehow, and that's where I sort of incorporate my mailing list. I know this is like a ton of stuff to cover, but the mailing list has been huge because I'm basically using the YouTube videos to sort of cast a net, and then I get some interested people and send them to my mailing list. They might leave and never watch again or never subscribe, but I still have them on my mailing list, and so I can let them know about my books, as books are coming out. So it's sort of a twofold effort to find people and then also capture them, so I have a way to contact them because I already know that they're somewhat at least interested in what I'm doing.
Mm. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's interesting because it's funny because you answered my second question, and then you made me think of two more questions. So, but yeah, no, it's really interesting because you know you were talking about like how it was the mix of politics and comic books, and at the time you came out, I mean, you kind of came out at the perfect time. Like it was like
Yeah,
this is when the whole comics gate and all this stuff was like really brewing, and there was a lot of excitement and all that stuff. And it was in the fact, it's funny because you say like, oh well, maybe I wasn't as entertaining as some people. Well, you look at some of these comics gate people, especially at that time, and it was like they were entertaining. It was like watching like Howard Stern or something, there was a certain like just excitement there. But then when I saw your videos come out, I was like, because sometimes they kind of go overboard and kind of go crazy in certain ways, and then I saw your videos come out, and it was like, okay, this guy is just, he's kind of even keeled, and he's got thoughtful insights of what, he's opening up the discussion and being thoughtful about it, but not necessarily like, I don't know. I don't know, whatever that like gregarious quality or whatever it
sure.
is
Yeah.
that were in maybe some of the other ones. And I think people wanted to see some of that kind of thing too, because not everybody, I mean, both are kind of fun, in a
Yeah.
different way, I guess is really the thing. So it was almost like a little bit of a balance. And then it's interesting that you brought in the mailing list thing. So because I've found that I've always heard the advice of you got to build your mailing list. This is, any person who talks about building a following, your what is it, 10,000 true fans or whatever it is, like they always talk, you got to build your mailing list. And I've just had a hard time. Like I have been building my mailing list, but it's like I'm not really a big on email type of person.
Yeah.
It's funny, we kind of organized this whole video through email, but that's like if I don't think about it, I won't look at my email for months. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just not into email.
Right.
So I don't actually send out newsletters. And every time I'm like, okay, I'm going to start sending out newsletters like weekly, or no, I'm going to do it monthly, whatever. I just never keep with it. It's like, how is
Yeah.
your mailing list situation gone?
So mine is very different. I don't send out a newsletter either, actually.
Yeah.
I have a very hands-off mailing list, and part of that was sort of a selling point, or I treated it like a selling point. I always call it, join my spam-free mailing list. I will not send you an email
Mm,
unless I'm sending you a notification with a discount or some kind of special offer for my books when they're ready, when they come out. So it really works in tandem with the YouTube channel. I'll even tell people, hey, I'm getting ready to, I'm going to launch a campaign. If you joined the mailing list, you'll have access to my secret perk. And that's how, Indiegogo has the ability that I can send out special tiers just for people on the mailing list that everyone else won't see. They don't have access to it. And so I'm specifically letting people know you're on the mailing list. You get something special. Check your spam filter. The email is coming. So that's different. I'm not using the email list to sort of keep in contact and promote. I use the YouTube channel for that. I don't necessarily know if that's the correct way to do it, but I think it works well for me because like in MailChimp, you get some statistics, and my email open rates are like 10% higher than it would normally be, which is great, and all
yeah.
those statistics are out there.
Yeah.
And part of that is I think people are motivated to be there. And then they're also motivated to check the email, click on the link. So really, even the email list, like I think, could I just stop making YouTube videos and just, use my mailing list? And I don't think that would be wise. They work together so well. So, which is nice. You don't have to focus as much time and energy on the mailing list. You're putting that instead into YouTube.
Absolutely. That's interesting, and maybe I should kind of employ that, because just for the simple fact that I'm not good at like doing a newsletter often, and it's funny because I kind of doubt some of the newsletter strategies anyways, because when I do sign up for something like that, a lot of times like it's obvious that it's like this automated thing to get you into a certain thing, and I'm like, I could do that, but I don't pay attention to those when I get those. Like, why would
Yeah.
anybody else? Like,
Yeah.
um,
The way that I want it to be is when you get an email, it's like I don't know. I'm trying to think of, sometimes you get a business email that you're wanting and you're expecting. Maybe I ordered something on eBay and then I get a notification that it shipped with a tracking number. To me, that's like, I want to check that tracking number. I want to see where it's at.
yeah,
That's a business communication email that I am interested in, So the same thing as I want people, when they get an email from me, it's like, this email means something. It's not me just, putting out a fluff piece or anything like that. It's just an important email communication that they're going to really want to have. Um, so that's kind of my theory on it. And I think it's better. I think a lot of the information out there on building an audience is sort of outdated. I think things have changed a little bit. So I don't know. That's how I approach it. I think it works quite well.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So speaking about kind of like like best practices and stuff, like we're talking about with the newsletters, with YouTube, Have you like before you started your YouTube, did you kind of like study like how does this YouTube thing work, or and afterwards did you study that, or have you just kind of done uh what you kind of intuitively thought might work and it just happened to, do decently?
Uh, so I would say both. I did do some research ahead of time when I was first starting my YouTube channel, and there's a lot of. It seems like a lot of the information out there, it's like not super helpful unless you have a big YouTube following. So that was a little rough. It was hard to find one that was for when you're just starting out and you have nothing.
Mhm.
Um, so that was one thing. Beyond that, though, it makes an effect. The one thing I've noticed is my passion in speaking about a topic, and I'm pretty even killed. But when I have something that I can really talk about and have some passion behind, um, the views are better. That's the one thing that's I know from a like an emotional standpoint that is true. That there's I've got numbers to back that up. Some of the other things, like with the algorithm, it changes so frequently. I have been better in the past at keeping up on what those changes are, finding out if there's certain words that you put in the title, you're going to get demonetized. Uh, Even if it's jokingly or if it's a light video and you mention the term Nazi, for example, it's always bad. It's going to demonetize. It does not matter what your take is on
Join
it.
my channel.
No, no, we're far enough into the video, it won't pick it. It won't pick it up. But in the title of your video, like you'll never want to use that word. It's just it'll kill your video. So little things like that, you'll learn that there's some landmines you just don't. It's not worth it.
Mhm.
But then after that, it's the art of making your titles and thumbnails look enticing, and
Mm.
there's not it is definitely art, not a science.
Mhm.
So sometimes I'll think this is good, and it just doesn't do very well. And then other times I'm surprised at how well it does. So what I would do is you look around on YouTube if you're watching videos, and the ones that just you want to click on. I don't know. Today it was I'm not even interested in this at all, but I got videos recommended to me on some guy that restores old tools, like
Mhm.
and he'll go through this whole process and restore the whole. It's like 20-minute long videos, and I catch myself watching like 3 of them in a row. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not interested in woodworking. I'm not interested, but there's something about the video and the title and the thumbnail that you just can't resist it. You want to click on it. And so if you can sort of look at that and try to apply some of those things into your videos, the chances are there's a lot of people that think like you, that are gonna they'll want to click on it. It becomes irresistible. So
Well, it's interesting that you say that because one of the things, and this is to me, because I've studied the YouTube thing like a lot, and one of the ninja things to do is if you can get into suggested videos, that section of things, that's like kind of the gold mine. That's where YouTube videos go viral, and that's where you don't care about rebuilding tools, but you get hooked on videos anyways, like you said.
yeah,
Like that's kind of a pretty cool play, but like I said, that's a ninja tool. Like there's certain people who are really good at that, and probably your best bet is to maybe go to some kind of training or hire somebody to help you with that, because you can, like, if you look through all the free content, you can kind of mine some of that out, but it takes a lot of work, and it's like it's hard enough to make YouTube content and be excited about making YouTube content, but also us as comic creators, we really just want to make our comics. That's the whole point of this, like make our comics and get eyes on it. So it's like, how deep can I go into some of these realms? I think it's worth researching, and maybe you find a thing here and there that helps. One thing that you did say that I think is helpful is, and this is what people focus a lot of time on, and honestly, I think you should just kind of figure out your thing and just intuit like learn a few things that help, but also intuitively do it. But it's not that important, but it is a little bit important. Well, especially thumbnails. You talked about thumbnails, and I don't think you said the word keywords, but you were talking about keywords basically.
Titles, yeah.
Titles, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So this is the thing. This is a very basic lesson for anybody trying to do YouTube. I'll tell you right now, like, and it is important because I see a lot of channels who they're like, I can tell they might be frustrated that their thing isn't working, and then I look at their channel and I'm like, there's that just you're not even doing the basics, you know, like so and I don't want to criticize anybody, but this is one thing is you need to have attractive thumbnails and something that makes people want to click that thing, you know, they want to click that picture, like something you have to have attractive thumbnails, and it doesn't need to be too complicated. What I do is I grabbed a picture from Fatal and I'm like, let me find something really cool from Fatal that looks good, and the best resolution you can find is the better. And then you know, sometimes I'm not able to find the greatest resolution. It's kind of okay as long as it's decent enough. Most people are going to be clicking on their phone; they won't ever notice the resolution anyways of the thumbnail. But it's still worth it because some people do watch it on TV or a bigger screen or whatever. So, but that being said, you know, you do your best to make a really nice thumbnail. Clear letters, you know, try to get some good contrast in there, whatever. We're artists. We already know, well, not all of us. Some of us are writers, so I'm both. But like, if you are an artist, you already know the a lot of the design elements. Incorporate that into your thumbnail process, and it doesn't have to be too complicated. I use an app on my phone. I make all my thumbnails on my phone. It's just easier. It's quicker. I get the thing done, and I don't worry about it too much. But I just try to make it attractive, something clickable. And then again, the keywords, title. This is the thing. You want to put like, you can research keywords, and that's a good thing too. That's a little bit more advanced, but you know, whatever it is that the topic of the video is that you're trying to make, and make sure it is relevant to what you're talking about. Don't put like, you know, Kylie Jenner's breast size or something like just because, and then your thing is about comics. Like
Right.
that's actually going to screw you up. That's not going to work. But put like, you know, whatever's relevant and interesting, something almost like a headline you'd see in a newspaper, put that as your title. And then in your description, write something that is like a sentence, like an actual sentence that also has that same exact phrasing in there. And then again, in your tags, all that does really is it helps YouTube know how to categorize it from the get-go. And you want to do that right from the beginning. That way, they at least know where to start you. They might move you in the category list eventually, but at first they'll at least know where to start you. So that's how you start to rank high on like the search results and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it doesn't always work. But you just, I mean, again, one thing that Clint said is you got to just keep making videos. If you can make a video every day, you'll start to learn these things. Like, you know, there's certain ways where people have studied YouTube, and they've done all these like tests and stuff to find out what works with the algorithm, and then the algorithm changes and they adjust their strategy and this and that. Like, that's cool and all that, but I also like the Gary Vaynerchuk kind of method where it's like, just freaking make content, make content, make content, make
Yeah.
content, and you're going to notice the things that work and then focus on those things that work, as long as it's something that works and you also enjoy. You want those two things combined. So if you can find that, it's a little bit of a process of discovery, but it's, you know, if you, one thing I think that people notice a lot of times when they start making YouTube videos is they actually enjoy making YouTube videos. I certainly do. And if you can enjoy that process enough to make a lot of videos, you'll start to notice the rhythms and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'd be surprised how you can make a topic sound a lot more enticing from like a clickability standpoint. Like for example, like I try to be very objective. I think I am anyway, and I will try to look at scenarios and try to see it from both people's sides, and you know what I mean, and sort of have a moderate approach. That's not necessarily a good route to go for YouTube if you want to grow a channel. Like you can almost be more bombastic about it and you're going to do better, you know. But the thing is, I can still make my titles and my thumbnails seem really over the top, you know, and a lot of that is like incorporating human faces in your thumbnails, which is a small thing, but it works. Like it adds more emotion and more drama to see a face, you know, like it's a weird face, you know. And I've been meaning to like take pictures of my own face too, because then I get more variety. It's like that's just another thing to do. So I haven't, but you get stock photos or whatever, you know. But doing stuff like that, you can add more drama to it. People click on it, and then they see, you know, whatever your perspective is, and you don't have to do what someone else is doing. In fact, it's even better, you know, if you've got your own kind of angle on things, however you want to do the videos. I've seen all sorts of great stuff, and I'll think of some of my favorite YouTube channels and try to analyze what they're doing right. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's just somebody making videos that I happen to like. And I don't know that they really know the formula for that, but I don't know, like I'm pretty interested in Magic the Gathering, and it's a sort of, you know, it's outside the world of comics, but maybe a little bit related. But there's this guy, Alpha Investments, who makes YouTube videos, his Rudy, and he's just so entertaining, even though he does no editing whatsoever. He turns on his videos, he rambles, but he's just so charismatic about it. And he has all these little inside jokes with his audience, and he'll talk about investment strategy. And sometimes he'll go off and it has nothing to do with Magic. He's just talking finance and investment stuff. But I want to hear about what it is, because, you know, it's Rudy, you know, you kind of get to know them. And so there's some degree to that where it's like you still want to energize the base, so to speak. And so I'll do videos that are, you know, hey, I'm fulfilling my campaign. Those are not going to get picked up in the algorithm. I know for a fact. Nobody cares out there that I'm fulfilling my campaign, except for, you know, those 300 to 700 people that are always interested in what I'm doing. They care, you know, and so that's a good place to be. So you want to still develop those, because ultimately you want those 1,000 true fans, or, you know, whatever it takes. So you still want to give them, those people that like your stuff, give them what they like, even if it's going to sacrifice the algorithm.
And that's interesting too, that you're kind of, you know, another thing you said earlier, and you're kind of getting into a little bit here, is you know, you talked about kind of when you're really starting out, like, and this is actually really good advice when you're first starting out and you're only getting like 3-4 views a thing. Maybe you're getting up to 30 or something, or 50, whatever. Like, this whole idea of going on other people's channels and commenting, and you know, that is a big thing. People do actually notice, and they'll follow your channel back just to see, hey, does this person make videos, and they might subscribe, you know, or whatever they do, you know. And so there's that. Or it's also just recognition of the name, you know. That's why, you know, I made my name Marsh Makes Comics, because it's just super obvious. You know, it's just like, you know what I'm about and what I do. Like, it just, you don't have to guess. So it's like people will see that. And I've gone on like the alternative videos. In fact, it might have even been one that you were on, one of the alternative videos. And I'm sitting there and I'm just, you know, commenting on the live chat. And people are like, oh, I just checked out your channel. I subscribed. I'm like, this isn't my video. Like, I'm just into what the content is. But I'm like, oh, thank you, that's cool. Like, so there's that. But then also, like, just on your own videos, this is one thing that it boggles my mind that people don't do. But people don't even comment, like reply to comments on their own videos. What's your policy with that?
That's huge. That's part of, I'm glad you brought that up. That's part of getting scrappy when you're a small channel, especially, but even now I do it. Some of the advice that you'll get if you Google how to be a successful YouTuber, they're going to say, don't read the comment section. That's the worst advice, I think. You know, at least as big as I can grow in comics, is for as many people as are interested in comics, I want to read as many comments as possible. And when you're starting out, you really ought to respond to as many comments as possible, because now they've watched your video, they've heard, they know that you've read their opinion on it, and they were kind enough to give you their opinion, which, that most videos I watch, I'm not commenting, so it takes some effort there. So when they're doing that, you recognize, you can give the little heart that says you love their comment. I try to do that every single comment I read. I'll do the little love it thing so they know I read it. Unless they say something just that I like. I can't like what you said, otherwise I'm going to get in trouble when someone sees that. But but for the most part, it's just I like their comments. I try to respond. It gets more difficult now because I get more comments to respond to everybody. But try to read it, because they know that you care enough about what they're thinking to read it, and then they're interested in how your campaigns are doing. They're interested in your videos. That you really do build a relationship with these fans, and you start to think of them not as numbers on video views, but you think about them as they're individual people that care at least a little bit about what you want to say, and that's a pretty cool thing, really. And when they're buying your comics too, and they're reading your books, it's it's a good idea to think of them as individual people. They're customers, they're readers. That's helpful. So, and obviously for me, my goal is not to grow, a 1 million subscriber YouTube channel, even 100,000. I just don't see that happening for me. But I don't really need that. And that's the nice thing, is I can still grow. And if you're just finding the people that are interested in what you're doing, it works. You can have a pretty lean channel and still, connect with people. That's really the goal.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like we get so seduced by like the vanity metrics, the numbers, all these things, and it's like it's not, that's not the thing. Like it's the connections, that you can build, that is and that sounds like a little cheesy, little woo woo, but it's like it really is like the reason why YouTube is so awesome, and why it works, and it's been a game changer for so many people, is because one of the things you want to do, if you want to get people interested in what you're doing, is that marketing is all about getting people to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
And video is such a great way to do that. Like if you can just be yourself on video, and you're just able to have like a conversation, like just that. Like I'm not an amazing, I'm the same, I'm very similar to you in that I'm not like a big, like I throw my opinion out there and then I joke and then I do this. Like I'm not like, I don't have like a super charismatic personality. I mean, some of that has been brought out through doing a lot of YouTube videos, but at the same time, I'm generally not like that. But just having conversations with people, people get to know you, they get more interested. And also just, I think, digging deep into that community. Like the thing is what's even more important than money is attention these days. Like that is the actual cash flow, really. Like if you get even a little bit of intention, like treat that as gold. Like if somebody takes the time to comment on your video, like like you said, I don't comment on everybody's video. I don't even think to sometimes. I'm like, I really like this. I just enjoyed like 5 of these guys' videos. And then I'm like, I didn't even comment on one of them. And
Yeah.
if somebody actually feels the urge to comment, like freaking respond. Like even if it's negative, like either try to flip it in a good way, or just, I mean, there are some things that I just straight up ignore because it's rare. It's very rare. But there are certain things that it's like I either ignore, or I might even delete it if it's like just bad,
Right. Yeah. And those happen sometimes, but if you're regularly reading and commenting, it actually happens less.
Yeah.
If you never read your comments, you're going to get all sorts of stuff, but people know that you respond, if they make fun of you and you respond or something, or much worse than that. Actually, I think it's great if people make fun of me. There's certain things that people make fun of, and it's just, I don't know, it's like a term of endearment. You know what I mean? It's like in good fun. Some people will say just outrageous things, or you don't know if it's a spam bot or what, they're trolling you. I don't know, that kind of stuff happens. But the more you're reading comments and responding, the more it's sort of like they're going to write something knowing that you're probably going to see it, you know? And so I think it actually makes for like a healthy comment section.
Yeah. Plus, I think what you're saying too is a great point if you do comment or respond a lot, because like, you know, the thing is the internet is full of trolls, and it's full of people who don't think that you'll respond, and when you do, it's like, I think it freaks them out a little bit. Like, oh crap, they actually saw this. So you know, it's interesting. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much to it. There was a question that I think, because I want to kind of go into this other stuff. So like with now YouTube obviously has been a huge thing for you. Is there any other, do you focus on any other social media and to kind of get attention, and has it worked for you?
So Twitter is the second most used platform that I use. Twitter, you have to be very careful with. I've made mistakes on Twitter, and I've said, and I'll stick by this, that YouTube's where you gain fans, and Twitter's where you lose fans. And unfortunately, that can be true sometimes, because giving your opinion out in a video, you're able to make like a full thought. You know, you have some time to think about it. You know, you can make your point. On Twitter, it's like it's just made for a knee-jerk reaction, or you know, sort of off the cuff comment that you can't really fully, you know, express yourself in a more clear way. So Twitter can be absolutely terrible. So for me, like Twitter's best. It's best for networking with people, especially if you want to meet other people for comic collaborations, meet artists all the time, or writers. If you want to connect with other YouTube channels, Twitter is a great way to do that. I can post stuff about my campaigns. I can make statements, but it's tough because the atmosphere on Twitter is just so confrontational all the time, and sometimes just needlessly personal. So you have to be very careful. So my suggestion with Twitter is just to be very disciplined with how you use it, how often you use it, and that you'll get the most out of it that way. I really want to try Instagram, and specifically, I have Instagram, but I don't really use it or post much. But what I have seen though is, because you can do video on Instagram, you can get sort of the YouTube effect, you know, a little different format, but where people are really getting to know you. So I think the gold for Instagram would be video content, not images, like just posting videos and let people know about what's going on. I need to commit to do it. I need to take my own advice and do it for a month straight, force myself to make it a habit. And then I could tell you if it's worth the effort or not. But I think it is. I believe it is, because I've seen so many great examples of it working.
I think personally, I think any most, especially the major social medias, it can really work for you. You know, I just interviewed Doug TeNapel a couple days ago, and he's been huge on Facebook before I think even YouTube really went off, or maybe it was somewhere around that time. But like he you know, he does good on Facebook, he does good on YouTube and other things too, but like there's people who do good on, you know, TikTok or whatever, you know, the social media is. It's just, what's your bandwidth, you know? I actually got kicked off of Facebook, which also made me get kicked off of Twitter.
No.
Which I don't know why. I have no clue why. I'm not a very like I'm not very like controversial type of person or anything.
Yeah.
I really don't know what it is, but that being said, now that I don't have it, I'm kind of pissed because I spent a lot of time working those things up. But now that I don't have it, I don't have to worry about it. And then
Yeah.
like all I have left is really Twitter and YouTube, and there's some other things, but not much. But and it's kind of nice. I
Yeah.
mean, Twitter isn't the greatest, but I've been doing it more because I have nothing else. So
Yeah, I have Facebook. I never use it though. Part of me wishes like I could get kicked off Twitter for some weird technicality, or excuse me, Facebook for some weird technicality, and then I have an excuse never to use it. But face I don't know. I've tried to make Facebook work for promotion. It just seems like it's hard to get out of that family and friends sphere, you know. Twitter,
yeah,
it's much easier, maybe to a fault, where you can talk to anybody on Twitter, you know.
yeah,
So yeah, Facebook could be great. I'm just for sure not the expert there. I think Twitter helps, and I can put out. I've been trying to practice like calls to action, being very specific with crowdfunding, like, hey, we're almost, we're at 39,000, we only need one more backer, or I think it was one more collector's bundle and we will be at 40,000. And I say that, and it's a call to action, very specific one, somebody back at this tier so we can get to 40,000. And then not 5 minutes later someone backs it, a collector's bundle. So I think Twitter can be helpful there. We just have to be clear with your calls to action. I also though get worried about just inundating people with, it's like you got to mix it up. You got to find other ways to make it a positive experience for people. So I'm still learning Twitter.
yeah. It's tough to make anything a positive experience for people on Twitter.
It really is.
I try, but I get sucked in. Twitter is a great place to get sucked into all the worst things about the internet. So,
Yeah.
I try to stay away from my feed. It's so hard, but I was scrolling through it last night, and I'm like, all these videos of like just the craziness that's going on in the world,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I have to stop looking at this because I'm about to like jump off a bridge right now. Like,
It's
so
not, yeah, it can be bad. Yeah, I will say too, sort of addressing that last question, does it help with getting more views? Using Twitter just to post your video every time you post a video, sometimes YouTube doesn't send out notifications, and so it's sort of backup. You're at least notifying some people that you posted a video. So I think that's helpful. I don't have stats on it though.
yeah, I'll say it's interesting because, all right, so Twitter for me, before it got like super toxic, because it wasn't always as toxic as it is now.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, the comic industry wasn't always as toxic as it is now. But before it got super toxic, it was kind of a cool place, but I actually didn't use it that much. But I knew that it was a cool place because everybody who was in the comic industry was on there. For some reason, that's where they all go, like more than other social media. And so I could tweet. I've done it so many times. I could tweet to like Eric Larson and he'd tweet back. Like, still, sometimes I don't want him to tweet back. I just want to tell him how much of a jerk he is. And and then he still tweets back. But like, but that being said, like, it's just like, I still like Eric Larson, by the way. I'm a big fan still, but some of the stuff he posts annoys me. But that being said, uh, you know, it's just like it's a place where everybody is, but it's so hard to dodge like the toxicity. But I will say also, not having Facebook and Instagram, I used to post, whenever I do a YouTube video, I post it everywhere. And the face I always thought Facebook was like a big driver, but I'm finding that just posting on Twitter, I'm still kind of getting the same amount of views. And I definitely think I know I'm getting views from Twitter, because I see people retweet it, and I don't know, you can kind of see people do certain actions and then you see them over on your channel too. And so I don't know. Yeah, I know it's having some effect at least. I don't know the extent of it. But you know, it doesn't hurt to put any content anywhere really for the most part, as long as it's not, you know, some weird thing. Um, but yeah, no, I think Twitter's helpful. There was another question here from Jason, also known as Muttman. For those of us that are not doing video commentary on trending topics, what kind of content would gain and keep subscribers?
That's tough. What's been tough for me, I would love to do videos on writing comics. Those just don't do well for getting views, and I don't know. There's probably a few different reasons why I don't quite have it figured out, but I would suggest look at YouTube channels that are doing kind of what you want to do and try to analyze why are they successful. I think there's a ton of channels out there that aren't doing trending topics, and even look outside your niche. You know what I mean? Like in I don't know, if you're into video games or something, like what are some YouTube channels? They're not talking about the latest and greatest, but they still make content that keeps you coming back. What is it that they're doing? And try to learn from that and see what you can apply yourself. But that's a tough one in comics for me anyway. I'm sure that there are some other people that have a handle on it, but it's been really tough for me to figure out how to make it work. You can do reviews on comics. I think there's a lot of competition there, and I don't know. I've never dipped my toe into that. A channel that I love, haven't watched it in a while though, was Strip Panel Naked, and what he does is he analyzes comics. So he's just picking out a sequence or a page or something from a comic, and he'll kind of go through it on why it's so great, and he'll break it down. And that's not trending topics. It's not controversial. It's not clickbaity, but he does a good job at it, and it makes for interesting content. So that's just one I can think of in the comics realm. I'm sure there are others, but yeah.
I think that you can. I think I've seen people who approach their whole YouTube channel after having researched and strategized exactly what they want to do and done really well right out the gate. But they must have had some other experiences before where they knew that they were good at that, in my opinion. You know, trending topics is just one thing. I don't do trending topics hardly at all. I just do them once in a while because sometimes there's a big enough thing where it's like I mean, I do these videos, I'm going to talk about it. It's in everybody knows about it. Why would I not talk about it?
Yeah.
But I don't really do trending topics, and I do decently. I do, you know, I tend to do more on the craft and interview and digging deep into the process. That's partially what works for me. The thing that really blew my channel up was doing a video about how to start your first comic and talking about mini comics and anthologies and stuff like that. So that is something that really helped me. And I already know, like, there's some other kind of ideas I want to do. Like you've probably, a lot of us have probably seen like box office art. What is it? Box office artist.
Oh yeah.
Like he has cool videos where and it's like the music like kind of dictates like the way the video is edited, and it's very exciting way to see art being performed. And I have ideas in that realm also, like you know, a lot of those people who are kind of in that realm, I feel like I could do that, but then that's taking a lot of time to make art and a lot of time to edit a video. And so that's why I haven't done too many things like that. You know, I think what actually it's so weird because there's so many strategies. I've looked up tons of videos about strategies, but what Clint said right in the beginning, I actually think is more important is, you know, take a month or however long you feel like is a good amount of time, a couple months, whatever, and make a video every day. I mean, I would just say from here on out, I'm just going to make a video every day, and I'm going to try a bunch of different things. And then, one tip I heard from, I want to remember his name. I've had him on my channel a couple times, and I can't think of his name right now. But um, it was this tip on Instagram. It's like, what do you use for your icon for, like, the thing that everybody sees? And what you do is you post art, post art, post art, and after you've had a bunch of art, you look at the thing that has the most views and likes and comments and all that, and you use that for your icon image. So it's the same type of idea with videos. Like, just make a bunch of stuff, try a ton of stuff, just keep trying whatever things that you pop into your head that you think are interesting, and then once you see something taking off, now look at that and say, because there are some things that take off that I'm like, because I had a video about like a pen review and how to replace the ink or whatever, and it took off. It was it was like my best video for a long time, and I was like, but I don't want to do pen review videos. Like,
Yeah.
that's not going to be good. So what it actually became my goal to find a way to do something I liked that outdid that video. So, you have to find something that you find out works and something you actually enjoy doing. Once you find that combination, just repeat it, and you'll find new ways to even hack that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's really good advice. I remember for a while there, it was make videos about make negative videos about Captain Marvel, before it came out. I made one and I was like, I just don't care to do this. It's that I don't I like most of the Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Like, I like the movies. I just feel like I'm not genuine. You know what I mean? And I hadn't even seen the movie. I don't know. I just have other things I want to talk about. So it was like, I just missed that, craze. For some reason, everybody was thirsty for that kind of content, but just pass. Like, it's okay if you're going to keep, going and making videos anyway. It kind of makes a statement too as to what kind of content you're going to make. So yeah, I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, by the way. But so Frank, also known as Salazar Nation, said Dan Ekus. That was the person I was trying to think of. I've had him on.
Oh,
I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. We're buddies and stuff, but there's so many people I just forget sometimes. I see we have Mr. Publishing Pete Cimetti hanging out there. Hey, what's up? A lot of people here. You know, it's just that's what I'm saying. Like, community is huge to me. Like, I'm looking at all the people in the chat, and it's like at least 70%, maybe 75, something like that, are people who I've had many conversations with. Like, these are people within my AAA Discord. Like, it's just like you go that's really important to, if you have people paying attention, like, dig into that. That's where you're going to find, the thing is more than, it's not even an opportunistic thing so much. Like, yes, you want to build something, but at the same time, when it's really just relating with people, you just get involved, and it's like, I don't know, it's not like it becomes more than you. It becomes more than like just, trying to get a following. When you start to almost not even think about that, you're just thinking about, how do I serve these people with really cool stuff that they like,
yeah.
or help them or whatever.
Yeah, that's such good advice. People can tell when you're just trying to get numbers, or especially in crowdfunding. It's like you're obviously trying to get your crowdfunding project funded, and so you're being nice for these. You got other motives. Now it's like, I think about, okay, I've got a comic book cover. I've got this cover. I've got an artist I've commissioned for this cover, and I've got these three guys, two or three guys that are very particular about covers, and that they buy my books. They're great supporters, but I think, like, what would this person say about this cover? Would they like it? And it's when you have them in the back of your mind, or I got lazy and I stopped making videos for like 4 days, in a row. and then I'll start to hear from them. They're like, where are you at? I want to see videos, you know? And so it ends up being like you're serving people that are there to watch it. And so I know it's like easy to think about it as this is my audience, you know, I own these people. It's not really how it works. It's that they're interested in what you're doing. And so we want to serve them. And if you're serving them, giving them content, then they're going to stick around, you know, and watch more, and they might support your book, you know? So I think that's huge, because people can tell if you're just seeing them as a number, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody wants to be seen as a number.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I feel like, you know, if you want to make it on YouTube slash with your comic, you know, there's tons of like really strategic things that go even beyond this that like you can get into, but they're like I haven't gone there. Like, I mean, I could kind of teach people a little bit of how to find keywords that help and stuff, but that's really a minor thing. And I have learned some things that actually help me get some ranking. But again, like if it doesn't hit just right, like your rankings will go back down. Like it's hard to really get into that. Maybe one day I'll do a video like actually how to get keyword stuff, but there's tons of videos out there that can help you with that. And you know, I'm actually not going to be the best person because I do it the way I do it, you know, and maybe I'm not doing it right or something. But
Yeah.
even still, that's like a small part of the whole thing, you know. Really just building those relationships is what's important. And YouTube is just a great place for that. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? I think we've kind of gone around this topic a lot, more than I really know much. I don't know a ton more with it personally, but I am a little bit curious. Before we head out, what is I'd love to hear. It's more like a selfish thing because I'm in the stage where I'm starting to write more than like I do art and writing, but like I'm trying to focus a lot on my writing and learn and stuff. And I've read a lot of books and stuff, but it's always interesting to hear how different people's approaches to
Mm.
writing comics specifically. And I'm curious. Obviously, you don't have to go into your whole thing, but you know, can you let us know a little bit about your writing process as well?
Yeah. So keep in mind, I come from a prose writing background. So I've written a couple novels, self-published them, and that's where I really, I think, learned how to writing two novels.
Mhm.
Then it was like, how do I apply this to comics? And so it's just definitely coming at it from that angle. And I know there's a lot of comic book writers, pros that have come from writing long form fiction to comics, and I see some similarities there. I think in writing. Um, so for me, I kind of switched it up a little bit. Because it's such a visual medium, I really try to put the visuals first. So I generally will go through and write an outline for my story. And I try not to make it too tight of an outline because that can make it feel lifeless almost. Like you want to be able to, as you're writing through it, have some freedom to sort of go where you feel like the characters are taking it. But an outline's important. I'm a plot driven writer, so I've got to know where it's going to go, and you know, at least roughly how I want it to end. Then I write through it. I usually write through the action first, and like, you know, panel one, page one, panel one. We open up on, you know, establishing shot and sort of just write in what those visuals are. But I will pause to type in specific bits of dialogue that I know need to be there. You know, it's an important part. So usually write through the action, and then I go back through and work on the dialogue and do several drafts. And those drafts will sort of whittle things down. Sometimes I'm changing action, and sometimes I'm changing dialogue. But I really try and build it around the visuals so that there's so that I'm showing and not telling. You know, I show like, how am I going to show that this character is a, you know, really evil villain? I've got to do something to show that. And so I built that into the plot. I'm thinking specifically of Downcast. I've got the villain in there, and there's two instances of kind of some sharp violence that just kind of show what kind of person he is, and so I build that into the plot, make sure I'm showing those kinds of things, and then I've got some other juggling to do. And I always think about what is the protagonist, their external conflict, what are they trying to resolve externally, and that's usually built into the plot. That's part of how the plot goes. And then what's their internal conflict, and you always got to have that, and where are they going to start at, and where are they going to end, so that there's always some kind of growth as characters. And even for the villain, you want to do that as well. I always think about how have they changed their mind from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, because that's what makes it satisfying, I think, is that they've changed, not always for the better, but that they've changed. So that's kind of, I don't know, in a nutshell. I don't know how in depth you want me to go, but those are a lot of the things I think about, and write it down. Make sure you understand what kind of person they start at, what kind of person they're going to end at, and how are you going to show that, and use the plot to create an instance or a scene that's going to show the reader that change has occurred, or what kind of person they are. So
yeah, that's a lot of interesting stuff. Now there's a couple questions. There's always like every time I have something, there's always like two questions I want to ask, but I need to start with one, and then I'll forget the other one. But so there's obviously that kind of theme / internal change. Do you, when you're thinking of ideas, like does an idea come on you and you try to find that theme, or do you brainstorm those internal changes and try to build a story around that, or how does that work for you?
It can be different every time. Sometimes I'll have a great idea, and if I sit there and think about it, it'll usually be I'm laying in bed late at night or early in the morning, or I'm in the shower, and that's where things seem to fall in place, and it's like, I got to do this, then that. Other times, most of the time, I would say, though, because you'll find that there's just all these little decisions you have to make. Sitting down and writing, you start writing the character and getting into their head and writing some dialogue, then you kind of question, like, what this character clearly would not make the decision that I wrote down in the plot, in the outline. So I'm going to have to change things because this it just wouldn't make sense. It would feel really forced if I did that. So then that's where you kind of find that you need to change things as you kind of get to know your characters a little bit better. And for me, for sure, I'd say 90% of the time it's in the writing process that I'm sort of working through those, and I'm learning the characters better and understanding where things need to change, or new cool ideas. You just allow yourself to sort of write, especially in a first draft. If you're writing it and the plot wants to change, go with it, and see where it takes you. When you're third, fourth, fifth draft kind of area, then it becomes more like you're fine-tuning things, and you're not going to be making generally huge changes, though they can happen for sure. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Do you find that do you follow any like plot, or I'm sorry, like certain outline structures like that? Because there's a lot of them out there. Is there anything that you follow, or do you just kind of plot it out yourself?
So I generally do 3-act structures, but I've gone the route of having such defined outlines that I think my writing suffered from it, that now I'm gun shy from getting too tied into how a plot should be. I've seen some people outline it, and it's just crazy, like very specifically what needs to happen in each and every moment. And that's okay if that works for you. That's definitely plot driven. I'm more plot driven, but I think it makes for a good story when you're taking some time with the characters and really working through what decisions they would make in that moment, and mistakes they would make. And And so, yeah, it's generally a 3-act structure. I don't try to do anything crazy, but sometimes I'll have, like a 5-act structure. It'll end up being, because it just feels like it needs a little bit more, perhaps. So, and then writing for comics can be weird too, because if you're writing and you're knowing that, like Downcast, for example, we got 4 issues. Okay, so 3 acts, 4 issues. How do you break that up? And to me, like, every comic you read, you need to have some kind of action in every issue. I hate to get a book where you read through the book and it's talking and there's no action. You got to wait till like the end of the story arc for something to happen. So to me, you got to build that in, as that's part of the plot. If I was doing just a graphic novel and it wasn't going to be broken up into issues, it might be a little bit different. But I'm always thinking about, in these 22 pages, what am I going to, I've got to have some kind of a, thrilling action that's going to happen, because it's comics, you got to do it. So it's a lot to balance.
Yeah, it is. For
It
sure.
really is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was reading some old Bronze Age Spider-Man books that I found at the store the other day, and I was reading them today, and I'm like, I was actually surprised that it actually had way more like kind of boring dialogue scenes. um, and it took forever to get to the like 5 or 6 pages of action, or like it was like almost like it was building up to get to the point where we got to boring scenes. And I'm like, this isn't like a reflection on Bronze Age, because I think Bronze Age is awesome. I think there's every age has their things that are interesting. But I was surprised though, because I thought there would be more action, in those stories. But anyways, so I guess kind of probably the last question that I think I have with the writing is the you talked about, you started off doing like prose and stuff, and now you're doing comics. What are comparatively, like, do you like one more, or how does that feel?
Yeah, I like comics quite a bit more. Some of the things with prose, like the cool thing is you're not limited. You can have however many pages you want. Though I suggest, if you're writing a novel, keep the page, keep the page count tight and relevant to your story. I've seen some that just go on and on. But and you don't have to hire artists. Like you have a lot of freedom. What I don't like about prose, though, is sort of the logistics, because so you're setting the whole stage and the visuals with words, and so there's a lot of so and so stood over there like this, the sky looked like this person said this, said, he said, she said. That stuff wore on me, and I can't. It just, as I would write it, I would get sick of it, and I'd try to find ways to avoid writing he said, and you can do that a little bit within reason, but it gets old. And I looked at Cormac McCarthy, who's one of my favorite authors, and he doesn't do that. He doesn't do punctuation either. It's like,
Oh, really?
yeah, not typical. He'll do like periods, but he's not doing quotes. He's not doing he said this, he said that. It's just like writing prose, and then he'll start writing out dialogue. And the way that the dialogue is written, it's very clear as to who's speaking.
Interesting.
And that's the mark of a good writer. And so for comics, you have your word balloons that are essentially he said. You don't have to write it. There's a word balloon that's going to tell you, tell the reader. But incorporating that, if you write it so that they wouldn't even need the word balloon, it's going to be spoken in that character's voice. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So I don't know, comics, I love, because I love the art first off, but I just feel it's a more economical way to tell a story. It allows for quiet moments, and I'm with my writing, I really try to not be too wordy. I try to keep my dialogue pretty tight, and I really edit things down. I focus a lot on that. So and that's just personal preference for me. But yeah, I mean, to me, I can't really tell the story how I want to. Or I don't know. Comics lends itself more to how I want to tell a story.
Mm.
However, I do have a few ideas for novels. Like someday, I don't know if I if I really want to do it again, but uh,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's interesting because I haven't ever written a novel. I've played around with writing some prose here and there. Um, but being an artist, it's interesting because I started trying to write comics, writing my own comics where I barely need to write words. Like I'll write like a bulleted list, and that's like my whole script, like in on one page for like a small mini comic or something. That's how I kind of started. Now I break it down to pages, and I do the panels, and I write a lot more. And then also if I'm writing for another artist, then I try to add a little bit more too, so at least they can
Yeah,
kind of see what I'm seeing to a certain degree. I don't dictate too much, especially being an artist. I realize that artists like to be artists, so let them be artists. And that's one of the things that's really cool about comics is it's a collaborative storytelling process. So you can be like, say pretty limited stuff and then know that the artist actually wants that freedom a lot of times. So it's like you just kind of let them have it, and then you get to see it come back and you're like, whoa, like that's so cool. I
yeah,
wouldn't even have thought to do it that way. Like it's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. And a big part of that's knowing the artist and how they like things. Um, I'll have some artists that I know will leave out details if I don't put them in.
Yeah,
And you're like the details aren't so important, but it's world building. Like to make sure there's details there. But I find out that some artists will benefit from me specifically going in and saying, "In this panel, why don't you show us this, show us that?" You know what I mean, and give them some suggestions, and that'll help other artists. I'll tell you, like Charlie, uh, he he's on fire. Like he has ideas on top of ideas for world building things, and he's like, "Hey, can you incorporate this in the story?" And I'm like, "I can. I don't know how." Like it's there. You know what I mean? Like I don't know that it's important to the plot, but it's great world building. And so with someone like Charlie, it's cool because he's so passionate about what he's doing that you kind of just uh let him, make sure you give him freedom and he's doing what he wants to do. And the book's going to benefit from that. So just sort of knowing people's strengths and weaknesses and writing around that. It's tough though when you get a new artist and it's a new partnership. It takes a little bit of time, but yeah,
yeah.
figure those things out as quick as you can.
That's actually really interesting, the difference between different kind of artists. I mean, this artist came to you with ideas and was like, I can
Yeah,
build all this stuff, and I just don't know how to make it a story. Probably this is what I'm imagining kind of happened, because I feel that way sometimes. Like I have a bunch of stories where I've drawn tons of character stuff and all kinds of things, but I just, for some reason, I cannot decide on the actual story. And then there's other stuff where I just write the story and I'm like, I could either illustrate this or I can give it to somebody else, whatever. It'll work either way. um, but and so it's interesting to hear that difference from what with Fatal compared to, I'm curious a little bit with Downcast. That was probably started with you, right? The idea started with you, or am I wrong?
yeah, no, the Downcast was 100% my idea. I started it years ago. I even drew some things. I designed Joanne, which was the main character, and her character design's pretty close, pretty faithful to that initial design that I did years ago. Um, and so yeah, Downcast, it's definitely like when it's your vision and and it's like a work for hire situation. You're hiring an artist and they're there to make a page rate, doing comics, which is what they love. But it's definitely more like you gotta sort of lay things out a little bit more and make sure they know what you want. And Notch has been great. Now we've done over 100 pages worth of of comics together. So he, I think, understands my scripts really well. He understands what I'm looking for. And we kind of have gotten to the point where it's like he sends in a page, I look at it, looks great. Like there's not a lot of back and forth, which is cool to get there. So that's why it's like once you get there, you want to just keep working with the same artists because you have each other figured out. But it's just so different. I'm starting, got other things in the background too, and I've started projects that never saw the light of day, and so it's kind of hard to talk about some. But I've worked with several artists, and a lot of them, you find out something's just not going to work with the partnership, or with some of the business kind of things. They're not getting deadlines, or they're just not excited about the story, things like that. And it's important to just recognize if it's not working, you move on and save yourself some money and some time and some heartache. And then, I've got some other stuff that's it's in the works, and I can't really say anything, but I'm fine. I'm always looking for artists and figuring out, what's next in the pipeline. And so I don't know, you keep learning and sort of build the skills up as you go.
Yeah, for sure. I know with me, like I always have my eyes out, like looking around, seeing the different artists and stuff. I'm friends with tons of artists, and the ones that always pop out to me aren't even necessarily the best artists. They're the ones that like I just see constantly putting stuff out. Like, they're a worker, that actually is more attractive to me than amazing art. As much as I want amazing art, it's like if you can hit a deadline and things like that, that's huge.
Oh, absolutely. If you can't put a book out, you're done then. You know what I mean? Like there's no point in working with an artist at that point. But it's I always ask now, how many pages do you do per week? Or like an even conservative estimate. And could you hit this deadline if we had to have this many pages done at this time? What do you think? And you try to get honest answers, and try to look for a track record of what they've done before. And it can be really, really tough. And again, I get why writers and artists will just, once they find something that clicks, they'll just stick together and do everything together, because it's so hard to find the right components, right partnership to make a book work and work well. So
yeah. For sure. Now with Downcast, you said 4 issues. Is that like each one is 4 issues, or you're going to do 4 all together, or what is that?
Yeah, so I have 2 trades, and like the second one has some extra stuff in it too, but those will be broken up in total into 4 issues. So it'll be 2 issues will be made out of the first crowdfunding campaign, basically, and then the second 2 issues will be made out of the second one. Okay. I would like to do more Downcast, but a part of that is making sure that Nacho is the artist, making sure that he's down to do another one. We've already been talking about all this. Part of that is, it's being published through Alterna. Do I, what's the route for that? I'm sure. I haven't talked to Peter about this specifically, but we probably want to see how sales go, for the first 4 issues, and sort of see, what Alterna wants to do. We've only signed a contract for the 4 issues. So, if they sell well, I imagine that, why not? I'm not going to speak for Peter, but on the other hand, I can still continue it anyway and crowdfund it. I still own the IP, so I'd like to do more, but right now it's just the 4 issues. That's sort of what we're committed to. Cool. I don't know. It's just cool. Kind of the beginning of something new, and I don't know. It's a lot of really touch and go right now. So
yeah. I think it'll be an interesting kind of adventure. I hope to go on that adventure eventually as well, because I'm a huge fan of Alterna. So anyways, other than that, like that's really it, man. Once again, everybody needs to go definitely check out Fatal. Like, I mean, you guys, this is like a cool looking book. Like, the idea is interesting. Like, definitely check it out and see if you can support. I think it's pretty check out the description. In the description, there's a link there. I guess the last thing is just once again let everybody know where they can find you, and that's about it.
Yeah, so you can check out my YouTube channel. It's SweetCast, or follow me on Twitter. It's cast sweet. Those are probably the best routes to follow me. And I try to be really responsive to. It's been a little crazy lately because whenever you launch a crowdfunding campaign, it's just lots of emails, lots of Twitter DMs. Everybody's excited, but it's just a lot going on. But I get back to everybody eventually. so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how you can reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate. I know with the crowdfunder it's busy, but yeah, I wanted to reach out because you're doing it. I want to see if we can get some more support on there, and so I do. I really appreciate you coming on, man. And anytime you ever want to come on again, I'm definitely happy to have you on. I think there's a lot more we could talk about, even with building a following and some of the techniques, even with crowdfunding and things like that. But yeah, man, thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yep, anytime. And thank you, everybody in the chat, for hanging out with us and everybody watching on the replay. And other than that, we will talk to you on the next episode. See you
Bye,
later.
everyone.